just don't get it, do you? This phrase of frustration was the reason for the creation of one of the most dangerous weapons in the galaxy, the point of view gun. It's a fictional weapon from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but when you pull the trigger, it will change the perspective of anybody who you are pointing it at. I'm an indigenous activist, and I can tell you there's been so many times when I just wish I could have pulled that trigger and changed somebody's mind. Think of this phrase. When I was a kid, I used to dress up like an Indian, and I would pretend to be strong and brave, and that's what I want to be like, just like you, just like all the other Indians. Does that sound problematic? To me, it did. I always felt so weirded out when I heard this stuff. On the surface, it sounds fine. It's a positive sentiment, right? You're saying that Native Americans are good. But A, we don't like being called Indian. It's a word that we like to use ourselves sometimes, but we don't like to hear that from others. But secondly, it puts us on a weird pedestal. It takes away our humanity when you claim that everybody is strong and everybody is brave. I know a lot of natives, and I can tell you, we are not. And this causes a huge rift when I'm trying to explain to people why I would like them to understand my perspective. This is one of the biggest problems I have, is that I don't feel that people understand my perspective. I don't feel that my pain is heard. Why are you upset about this? Does it bother you when people dress up as Indians? We're just interested in your culture. I don't mind if you dress up in my culture. I'm just asking questions. And in this situation, I feel so exasperated. Sometimes I'm patient. Sometimes I'm just angry. I just get pissed. It's not my job to tell you and educate you on all these things. Please, just inform yourself. Why are you getting so upset? Aren't you interested in this topic? If you really cared about this issue, if you really cared about me, you would take the time to educate me. And that's such, can you feel the frustration? I wish I had that gun that I could just point and shoot and convince somebody of a different situation. But we don't have that. This is where allyship comes in. I'm Navajo. Navajo is the second largest tribe in the United States with 400,000 enrolled members, but I live in Austria. Here, the member count is more like 2. It's me and my mom, who's sitting here as well, maybe a few others. But the point being, my activism work is oftentimes very lonely. I don't have a local community to work with, and that's where allies come in. Allies are people who use their privilege in order to help people who are experiencing discrimination. And part of that is recognizing your privilege. The second part is educating yourself and then taking action. But if we start in that very beginning part where people cannot recognize their privilege, that's where I start to feel frustrated, when you can't see the problem that's so clear to me. And it was in that place of frustration, this feeling that I get sometimes. I generally tend to be quite optimistic when I'm doing my activism. I think about the modern Native Americans and I think about what we're going to be doing. But when I'm in that place of frustration, that is when I want that point of view gun. And it was in this time that I realized that bad allyship can go 2 ways. I got a message from a female friend of mine, and when I read the message, my heart sank. I was being called out. I was being accused of sexist behavior. And she was describing times when I had made her feel uncomfortable, where I'd even crossed boundaries. Well, that's awkward because I'm obviously not sexist. You know? If anything, I'm speaking up when there's people saying sexist things around, right? I'm really good at respecting boundaries. I'm a good ally. Oh, maybe I'm the asshole. I'd been so busy pointing my point of view gun at other people that I had failed to realize the privilege that I had myself and the discrimination that I was giving to others. We're always so used to looking through one lens that it's very difficult to realize when themes like intersectionality come up, when there's all these different dimensions of discrimination that come up. So, what do you do in a situation like that? Well, it's very awkward. You have to accept that you don't have all of the answers. You have to take a very long commitment to a very uncomfortable time. Because allyship is inherently awkward. It is a verb, it is not a noun. You are not a good person or a bad person. I had failed my friend. I had made her feel unsafe. And even worse than that, I betrayed her trust. And that requires reconciliation. So what do? Well, you reflect. You commit to taking steps to inform yourself and to recognize your own privilege. I apologized, and I committed to doing better. And in doing this, I realized that I had much, much more privilege than I thought. That was the first step, recognize your own privilege. I'd always viewed myself through the lens of a minority, but what other privileges did I have? Well, I'm a man. I had 2 loving parents. I come from a pretty good socioeconomic background, upper middle class. I have the ability to travel. I'm able-bodied. I'm sound of mind. That's a lot of privilege. Maybe there's a lot more discrimination out there than what I was just focusing on. And when it comes to being a good ally, this is not a state. It is something that you must actively work on in order to continuously learn, because it's not going to be the same for everybody. With one person, you may get really great resonance. With another person, you might not. So the first step in recognizing your privilege is something that I'd like to do with all of you right now. Let's all close our eyes and think about the various privileges you have, no matter how discriminated you think you might be. Do you have a roof over your head? Do you live in a country where there's peace? Now I want to think about somebody that you know personally who doesn't have that privilege, who maybe comes from a different socioeconomic background, who maybe comes from a war-torn country, and think about what you don't understand about their struggle. And the third thing I want you to think about is what is the first step that you can take? What's the first thing you can do? Can you write somebody? Can you apologize? Can you call somebody that you haven't talked to in a long time and offer support? Can you donate? Can you inform yourself? Stick with that one thing. And now open your eyes and commit to it. And do it before the day ends, because you still have that TEDx inspirational energy. It's going to be probably gone a lot less tomorrow. But the first step is recognizing. Second step is educating. But we have to take action. And the problem is that most people always see this as something for somebody else to do. So let's stop pointing our guns of changing people's views and try and make that change begin within ourselves. Thank you.